Welcome to our Line Opinion panelists for the week. We're happy to be joined in person in our Albuquerque studios by attorney Sophie Martin, one of our regulars. Across the table, that is Dan Boyd. He is Capitol Bureau Chief at the Albuquerque Journal. And back beside Sophie, that is Catherine McGill. She's founder and director of the New Mexico Black Leadership Council, amongst many other things. Thank you all for being here. An Albuquerque high school student remained locked up as of this taping after police say they found him with 2 handguns at a charter school here in Albuquerque. Prosecutors say the weapons are tied to more than a dozen shootings around the city, including a drive-by at Sandia High School. You might remember that. We talked about that at the table here. The 18-year-old student at La Academia de Esperanza is facing a weapons charge and another for receiving stolen property, but he's not charged in any of those shootings. Albuquerque has, as you know, a history of gun violence. And Kath, let me start here. I'm trying to slot this case, make more of it than it might be or less of it. It's kind of hard to figure out. Is this an indicator of something about gun violence, about guns in schools? What's the big overall picture here when you think about two students in a high school with guns? What comes to mind?
I think, what we see, the programs that are targeting gun violence, the new DA's, plan intervention in the schools to go and talk to students about guns, tells us that there is a real issue. This is a real concern. I was just recently on a ride-along with some Albuquerque police downtown on St. Patrick's Day, and it was just really a cautionary tale as we're going through parking lots, and there are kids who are, teens, 14 and 15, 16, sitting in cars, and, what I'm being told is that we know they all have guns. They're not even old enough to go into the clubs, where at about 1:30 in the morning there will be all kinds of shooting and things like that. And so the availability of those guns and just sort of the street cred that you get if you have a gun, some not even, according to what we hear from APS officials, they weren't intending to do any harm with them at school, but they're bringing them to school. And so we know that there's a problem. There are too many guns on the street, and we have to do something about the number of guns and the easy access to guns on Albuquerque streets and in the state of New Mexico. So the issue is about access to them. Yeah.
Let me, Dan, the details of the story are disturbing, to say the least. The student accused of trying to buy 2 9mm handguns, ouch, from one student, later robbing that student of the handguns with the help of an accomplice while using a rifle of their own. Oh, come on, guys. The student then is accused of bringing the stolen handguns to school 2 days later, as Kathy mentioned, to sell to their classmates. A teacher overheard the conversation and reported them. Thank God for that teacher. Holy smokes. We hear a lot about hardening schools, metal detectors, things like that. Might this have been a case where that might have worked out?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Kathy said, I mean, it'd be nice to look at this as an isolated incident, but I don't think, from what we've seen and the number of other, I think there's at least 12 guns that have been seized from Albuquerque schools already this school year.
That's right.
I think legislators have tried to address, passing a law that there could be some liability for parents if minors access a firearm, but clearly that's kind of an after-the-fact punishment. I mean, I think to try to prevent guns from getting in schools, I mean, whether that means, metal detectors at the front of schools, I mean, I'm not even sure that would work, but trying to kind of get at the root of this problem, and other bills at the legislature to kind of crack down even more on automatic weapons failed. So, clearly it's not a unanimous support for doing that, but it does seem like this this trend we're seeing of more guns in schools, and already we've seen, disastrous results, tragic results as a result of that.
Exactly right. Sophie, interestingly, Dan mentioned some legislation, House Bill 9, which makes it a crime for a firearm to be negligently stored in a way that a minor could access it. All well and good. I don't think that really applies to this case.
This doesn't apply here, right? There's no suggestion that this is actually these are parents' firearms.
Yep.
I'm reminded of a couple of things. One is, we know that children do not have fully developed brains. They are not, sorry kids, those of you who are watching the show tonight, they're not good at necessarily making good decisions. And yet we continue to make firearms accessible to a group that I believe really should not have that access. And so we chip away at the problem here, we chip away at the problem there. I think these laws are important.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I think going back to what Catherine was saying, we have a real access problem here. We have a glut of guns available, not just in New Mexico, but across the country. And this news about these kids in this high school, it has to be viewed in the context of the shootings that we see, both by minors and by adults, targeting folks targeting victims in schools. The hardening that we've seen so far doesn't really seem to have done enough.
Okay.
And I think that, the argument that hardening is, and I'm not suggesting that this was what you were saying, that hardening a school is a solution on its own, is just naive, and just plays into, I think, this idea that more meaningful restrictions can't be put in place. They need to happen. Our country is calling out for this.
It's interesting, and I'm talking about people getting shot at, pulling into the wrong driveways right now. This is getting a little crazy, folks. Exactly right. To Dan's point a little bit ago, it's 14 incidents involving guns on school campuses this year. And APS Superintendent Scott Elder told the Journal last month the district has invested in fencing, locks, camera systems, and is considering weapon detection systems for schools. Your thoughts, Kathy McGill?
So, making those schools a fortress,
Right.
is that the answer? I have to say that we have to do something. I sit on
Let me
several
ask you this.
school
On your
councils.
question, is it not unreasonable to expect a last check at the door with a metal detector for a 9mm? I mean, we're talking 9mm.
I think that's where we are.
Okay.
How we got there is just unfathomable. Like how we could allow, these kinds of things to happen. And I think the larger question, or the question that we need to ask, is whose job is it to stem this tide?
Yes.
And how many times do we need to say to elected officials at the federal level, at the state level, at the city level, do something? And so we keep asking.
Are we at the end of the
do
road on those
something.
asks? Have they done everything they possibly can with legislation? And
I don't believe that
people after
everything
that?
has been done
Okay.
that could possibly be done with legislation. However, people are still, talking about people's Second Amendment rights to bear arms. So at what point do we need to take a look at that and say, we must do something because, the access is the issue?
yeah. The polling out there, I'm being very loose with this, but there is some support out there, Dan, for these kind of hardenings. Perhaps they're a reaction to what we're seeing around the country, who knows. But there's also the idea that perhaps arming teachers might help with this a little bit. And it just gives me a reaction to tables, kind of similar to what my gut on the asking. Do we really want teachers shooting it out with students with 9mm? You see what I mean here? Is that the answer, arming teachers?
I mean, I maybe depending on your perspective on the
Right.
issue, but I certainly haven't seen that getting much traction in New Mexico, and it does
Right.
seem like there's a lot of ways that could go very wrong. I think just this issue that Kathy touched on, kind of this culture that kind of glorifies having guns, and
Right.
and I think the position we're in now, just there are so many guns out there, and then how do you,
Right.
how do you get that? How do you get them off the black market?
That's
I mean,
right.
and that's no easy answers to
A
that.
reminder, during the pandemic, the sales of handguns skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And now they're all, as Dan's mentioning, filtering out.
I mean,
so.
there are some things historically that we have seen made a difference. I mean, the ban on assault rifles that unfortunately expired. I say unfortunately, like that wasn't intentional.
Right.
But that did expire.
Right.
We saw a real increase, a very dramatic increase in guns on the streets following the expiration of that legislation, that law. Buyback programs seem so podunk, but they do serve to pull guns off the street. But those programs can only be effective if we're also limiting the access to guns at the origin.
That's right. That's
At
right.
the origin. Can I just
Please,
say
ma'am.
that 85% of teachers say that they don't want to carry a gun in school.
right.
That's not what they're there for.
That's right.
And then, but why can't we look at what happens in other countries related to gun violence? Can we look to see what other countries have done? Why they don't have the same kind of
Right.
mass shootings that we have in the United States?
Yeah.
Sophie, can I bounce back to you for a quick second? Dan, why don't you get in on this too? for years we heard concerns from the governor, legislators, state's pretrial detention system isn't what it should be, strict enough, but this arrested 18-year-old who was one of the students on campus I mentioned earlier is being held, doesn't appear to have a criminal record,
Right.
and is being held after prosecutors filed a pretrial detention motion. Is that proof that the system isn't as lax as critics have claimed, or is this
I mean, I think it's a sign that
Okay.
the prosecutors were successful in putting together the argument to keep him behind bars. Does
that
there
mean
are
something
many
for
moving
others?
pieces. Like the law does not work in the absence of action on the part, in this case, of the prosecution. So I think I find it heartening that they were able to. I don't know, heartening is the word that I want, but
Right.
but this looks like a circumstance in which all the correct steps were taken.
Is this the kind of circumstance, Dan, where you've got someone on the hook, an 18-year-old, maybe you make a point here, a big public point about what it is to be of age, but bringing a gun on campus. If there's no consequences here, the public's not going to be too happy about it. If I was a parent at this high school, I'm looking for consequences here, bringing 2 9mm into a school campus setting.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of political attention on pretrial detention, and obviously there's been cases where judges have released individuals who've gone on to commit other, and even if those are the very small minority of cases, that obviously they get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. I mean, I think judges do try to weigh all the evidence in a case, and obviously what prosecutors put in front of them. So sometimes, and they use the Arnold tool and things like that to make these decisions. But I think on a gut level, I mean, sometimes there's kind of a common sense factor. Certainly in a case like this, it seems like, for other parents to have someone like that being released pending trial, would be. Yeah, nerve-wracking to say the least.
Unreal. Sophie makes a good point earlier about all of this. It just, we got to get our arms around guns. We just have to get our arms around it in our town. We're suffering. People are suffering from violence. There is ripple effects when someone is a victim of gun violence that lasts for generations. And we have to think about that. So thanks to our line opinion panel on that one. We'll meet right back here in less than a minute to talk about the state's handling of developmental disability providers after a report shows dozens of instances of neglect or abuse. You'll hear about that in just a hot second.